Subject 804 does not represent a ghost, but a biological anomaly. For decades, we mistook a complex cellular mutation for folklore. To understand the threat, we must dissect the anatomy of the Wendigo. The condition begins not in the body, but deep within the brain.
We call this the greed prion, a misfolded protein found in human tissue.
Ingesting specific human enzymes triggers a catastrophic rewiring of the hypothalamus. The subject's hunger regulation centers are instantly and permanently destroyed. This brings us to Phase 1, the onset of insatiable starvation. The body begins to consume its own fat reserves within hours. But the caloric intake required to fuel the mutation is massive. As fat depletion hits zero, the skeletal structure begins to fracture. This is not decay. It is a violent expansion of the frame. Subject height increases by nearly 40% in 3 days. The agony of this growth drives the subject into a feral state. Ligaments snap and regrow with higher tensile strength. This allows the creature to support its new, grotesque verticality. Let us examine the extremities, specifically the hands and fingers. The fingernails are shed, replaced by protruding distal phalanx bones. These act not just as weapons, but as ice picks for climbing. The creature becomes an apex predator in vertical forest environments. However, the most disturbing mutation occurs in the facial region. The lips and nose are soft tissue, highly susceptible to frostbite.
The organism does not repair this tissue, it discards it.
This results in the permanent, fixed grin described in folklore.
This is not an expression of emotion. It is purely functional necrosis.
Without lips, the creature cannot pronounce labial sounds like B or P. Its vocalizations are restricted to guttural clicks and hiss-like mimicry. This brings us to the auditory mimicry mechanism. The clinical archivist. The creature can replicate the pitch of human distress calls perfectly. It uses this to lure prey away from the safety of groups. Now consider the thermal paradox of the Wendigo physiology. The mutation creates a hyperactive metabolism that burns hot. The core temperature can exceed 110 degrees. Yet the creature is almost always found in sub-zero environments. It requires extreme cold to prevent its internal organs from cooking. The Heart of Ice legend is a misinterpretation of this cooling need. If the creature enters a warm environment, it begins to die. This restricts its hunting grounds to winter months or high altitudes. Let's analyze the sensory adaptations for nocturnal hunting. The eyes develop a tapetum lucidum, reflecting all available light. It does not see color, only movement and thermal contrast. Its sense of smell, however, is its primary navigation tool. The exposed nasal cavity filters scents miles upwind. It can detect the pheromones of fear in human sweat. This biological tracking makes hiding from the creature nearly impossible. We must also address the misconception of the antlers.
These are not true antlers, but cranial tumors bursting outward.
They serve no evolutionary purpose other than a side effect of growth. Let us review case study 409, The Hunter's Encounter. The subject was a male, age 30, isolated for 5 weeks. He reported hearing his own voice calling from the woods. This confirms the mimicry ability is capable of instant replication. The creature does not attack immediately. It stalks to induce stress. High stress levels in prey release cortisol, which the creature craves. It is essentially marinating the meal in its own fear. When the attack occurs, it is overwhelmingly fast. The elongated limbs act as springs, launching it 20 feet. Impact trauma often kills the prey before the bite occurs. However, if the prey survives, they may be taken alive. The clinical archivist. The Wendigo creates larders in high frozen places. Here, victims are kept in a state of hypothermic preservation. This allows the creature to feed during periods of scarcity. But the hunger never truly subsides. The metabolic fire burns through the meal in hours. The metabolic fire burns through the meal in hours. Is there a cure for the greed prion mutation? All attempts at pharmaceutical intervention have failed. The cellular restructuring is too aggressive to reverse. Euthanasia is the only viable option for the infected. Fire is the only method to destroy the biological matter. It can remain dormant in the permafrost for centuries. This explains the cyclical nature of sightings in history. It is not a spirit returning. It is a plague thawing out. We have observed a correlation with localized famine. If buried, the prion can leach into the soil. Desperation lowers the immune system, inviting the mutation. Once the transformation is complete, humanity is gone. The subject retains memories, but loses all empathy. This makes them effective at psychological manipulation. They remember the names of their loved ones, and they use those names to draw them into the dark. The structural weakness of the creature is its spine. Due to rapid elongation, the vertebrae are brittle. High-caliber impact to the spinal column can immobilize it. However, hitting a moving target at that speed is unlikely. The skin is thick, leather-like, and resistant to small arms. It is also covered in a secretion that prevents ice buildup. This secretion has a distinct rancid odor. Survivors describe it as a mix of pine sap and rotting meat. If you smell this, you are already in the kill zone. The Wendigo is solitary. They do not pack hunt. They are territorial and will kill other infected subjects. This ensures the food supply is not divided. The lifespan of a Wendigo is theoretically indefinite. Biological aging halts once the mutation stabilizes. Only starvation or violence can end its existence. There are reports of specimens surviving for centuries. They become smarter, more efficient hunters with time. Older specimens lose the ability to mimic speech entirely. They no longer need to lure. They simply take. What should you do if you encounter these signs? Do not run. It triggers the predatory chase reflex. Do not hide. It can smell you. Your only chance is fire, intense, bright heat. The sensory overload can confuse its thermal vision. Use that moment to move to an open area. But remember, the protocol is containment, not survival. If you have been bitten, you are a carrier. The prion is already in your bloodstream. The clinical archivist. The hunger will begin within 6 hours. For the safety of the population, you must not return. The Wendigo is a biological dead end. It is nature's punishment for the consumption of one's own kind. We have classified the creature as a Class 4 biohazard. Do not seek it out. Do not speak its name. To acknowledge it is to invite the infection. This concludes the biological briefing on Subject 804. Burn this tape immediately after listening. End of log. The Clinical Archivist.